Welcome to the McHenry County College How to Complete the FAFSA presentation. The FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. I describe the FAFSA as the large umbrella. Once the completed FAFSA has been submitted, a student will find out what type of financial aid they are eligible for. There's several different types. We have gift aid, that's free money that a student won't ever have to pay back. That comes in the forms of grants and scholarships. And then we also have self-help aid. That would be money that they might have to pay back someday in the forms of loans. And then the work study program, which is a job that a student can have on or off campus. This is an important slide to pay attention to. Completing the FAFSA should not be stressful. At McHenry County College, we help many families and students complete the FAFSA, and we also see many families and students very stressed out with the process. It's important to know that an honest mistake is not going to ruin the chance of a student getting financial aid. You can always go back into the FAFSA to make corrections yourself, and if you don't know that you made the mistake, between all of the reports that the Department of Education runs, along with the school that the student will be attending, they might find the mistakes, and they will send you an email asking for additional information to verify your FAFSA. If the information you originally submitted in your FAFSA is incorrect, the financial aid office at the school the student is attending will help correct that FAFSA. Department of Education always recommends that the student is the one who completes the FAFSA. Parents can sit right alongside the student and help them through this process. It is important for the student to understand what information is going into the FAFSA. That way, when they are at school and if they have financial aid questions, they have already gotten a good understanding of the process that they went through in order to get the financial aid. The following list is the required information for the FAFSA. Demographic information, Social Security number. The student needs to have a Social Security number in order to be eligible for financial aid. The parents do not. If the parent does not have a Social Security number, they will enter all zeros in the FAFSA. Student and parent income from 2 years ago. Consider the school year you are applying financial aid for. So if it's the 2020 school year, you will take the 2018 taxes. Untaxed income will be another part of the FAFSA. Investment information. School choices. A student can put up to 10 schools into the FAFSA. Be sure to also apply to those schools in order for those schools to get your FAFSA information into their school records. Birth dates of parent and student, and then marriage or divorce dates. A student has several different avenues to complete the FAFSA. They can go to the website www.fafsa.gov. Be sure to go to this exact website. If you search FAFSA, you're going to find there are several third-party websites that will give you the correct application, but before you hit submit, it's going to ask you to pay a fee. Remember, that first F in FAFSA stands for free. You can download the My Student phone app on your smartphone, or you can call 1-800-4FED-AID. Please note that phone number is for students who do not have computers, tablets, smartphones, Wi-Fi, or data. Now pay attention to that red circle on the slide. You'll see there that there are 2 different school years. At times, the FAFSA is going to offer 2 different school year FAFSAs. Please be sure to know which school year you are applying for financial aid. Every October 1st, the FAFSA becomes available for this following school year. Please make sure if you've already completed a FAFSA before that you click Renew for the FAFSA. Every year you're planning on being a college student once again. Your first step when you're initially going to complete the FAFSA is creating an FSA ID for yourself, and if you're a dependent student, one parent needs to create an FSA ID. This is your electronic signature that you will use at the end of the FAFSA to sign, along with using it if you're going to utilize the IRS data retrieval tool within the FAFSA, which I'll explain in later slides. Creating the FSA ID can be time consuming, but it will make it a lot easier if you write everything down, including the username, the password, and the answers to your security questions. Everyone needs to create their own FSA IDs, and along with that, you have to use different emails. For example, if your mom creates an FSA ID for herself and then wants you to use her email for your FSA ID, the FSA ID will not work. You have to have your own email within your FSA ID. The next several slides are going to be taking a deep dive into the actual FAFSA application. You're going to be seeing screenshots taken from the FAFSA, and I'm going to give you tips and tricks on how to handle those slides. Once you start answering questions in the FAFSA, there are a few different markers on each page that will help you. On the top left, you see student information. At times, it will also say parent information. This is going to help you understand who you are answering questions for. On the right-hand side, you see the help button. It's a white question mark. Please click on this button at any time when you are answering a question that confuses you or you need more detail. And then on the bottom, you'll see a previous and next button. Please use these buttons to go back and forth throughout the FAFSA. If you were to use the top left back arrow button on your computer, you might risk the chance of being kicked out of the FAFSA. On the student information page, you're going to need to identify which parent will be parent 1 and which parent will be parent 2. This will be the same throughout the FAFSA, so just make sure you take note of who you're designated in each spot. And then it's going to ask you, are you interested in considering the work-study program? If you think you would like to work on campus during your college career, click yes. Not a big deal if you change your mind. What will happen is after completing the FAFSA, the Department of Education will calculate out how much money you are eligible to earn in the work-study program. This slide is a great example of why you need to answer every single question in the FAFSA, even if it's a no answer or a $0 amount. Or maybe they'll give you the none of the above option. Just be sure to complete the questions. That way the financial aid department at the school you're attending doesn't request additional information. The household size often confuses students. You're going to see a chart pop up when you're at this page during the FAFSA, and it's going to ask you how many people are in your household. Because you've already answered several questions before you get to this screen, the number for your parents is going to automatically be populated, as well as 1 for yourself. The next question will be, are your parents financially responsible for anyone else, as in your siblings, in the household? And then you'd put 2 if you have a brother and sister. 0 if you have no other brothers and sisters living in your house or financially dependent upon your parents. And then the next 4th bottom box down will be are there any other people living in your parents' house that your mom and dad are financially responsible for? For example, maybe grandma and grandpa live there and they pay nothing, they have no income, mom and dad are financially supporting grandma and grandpa. Then you'd put 2 there. Let's say there's an uncle living in the house and he pays rent for a bedroom, he buys his own food. You would not include him because he is financially responsible for himself. And then the last box would be, well, out of all of these people living in your house, how many are going to college? I had mentioned earlier, you're going to need to pay attention to who you identify as parent 1 or parent 2. You can see here parent social security number. This is where you would put in your social security number. And if a parent does not have a social security number, you put all zeros in. The FAFSA requires tax information from the student if they worked and the parents if the student is dependent. The IRS data retrieval tool is a useful tool that is built into the FAFSA in order to retrieve your tax information from the IRS website. After answering a series of questions, if you're eligible to use the IRS data retrieval tool, you will see the link to IRS button on the bottom of the page. If you click on that, it will take you to the IRS website. After answering questions on the IRS website, it will pull all of the necessary tax information from the IRS website and put it into the FAFSA for you. If you didn't work in the tax year they're requiring, no worries. There will be questions for you to answer that will indicate if you worked, how much money you made, and if you filed taxes or not. After you have clicked Link to IRS, this screenshot will pop up. It's very specific, asking for your first name, last name, and personal information in order to find you within the irs.gov website. Please make sure that this information mirrors the information that's on your tax return. For instance, if you have moved since your last tax return and you are now at a different address, make sure the address that you include on this sheet is the address where you lived when you filed taxes. For the first or the last name, make sure that also is exactly how it appears on your tax return. Great example would be if your name is Cynthia, but you typically go by Cindy. If your tax return says Cynthia on it, that is what you will put into this form. You won't want to go with Cindy. It won't find your information. There are times where the IRS data retrieval will not work for individuals. There's a number of reasons why that might not work. What's important for you to know, though, is you can enter your tax information manually. Be sure to have the correct tax year tax return out right in front of you, and you're going to see it's going to ask you what type of tax return did you file. And after you put in, for example, IRS 1040, it will calculate the following questions to reflect the IRS 1040. So it'll say, what was your parents' adjusted gross income for 2016? This amount is found on IRS Form 1040 on line 37. Now remember, this is just an example. That 2016 year is going to adjust depending on what FAFSA you are completing. This particular screenshot shows up after a student or a parent indicates that they filed married, filing jointly. At this point, you're going to want to separate out how much did parent 1 make and how much did parent 2 make. This is done by grabbing your W-2s and writing that information into each specific line. This is a slide that I often see parents and students get confused by. You can see at the top there it says parent information. There's going to be one exactly like this. It says student information as well. As of today, what is your parents' total current balance of cash savings and checking accounts? Please enter the information here that is at the bottom line. What is in your cash savings and checking accounts after all of the bills have been paid for the month? Please don't put in what's in there right after payday, because after you've paid all your bills, that dollar amount's going to be much lower. The second question is, today, what is your net worth of parent investments, including real estate? Don't include the parent's home or the home that you live in. They want to know, do you have any rental units that you're collecting rent for on a monthly basis? And then as of today, what is your net worth of parents' current businesses or investment firms? This typically is zero for a lot of people, but if you have a family farm or a business that employs 100 or more full-time or equivalent to full-time employees, you're going to want to enter that information here. Remember, this page is going to be important to answer correctly, and if you're not quite sure, make sure you click that white question mark in the blue circle on the right hand side. This is going to take a deep dive into what specific information they are looking for in these questions. Also remember, just for reasons of not stressing out too much, if you make a mistake here, it's okay. Between the Department of Education and the school the student is attending, they're going to find the discrepancies and they're going to ask you for additional information, and they'll help you correct it. As long as it's an honest mistake, that's not going to hurt the chances of financial aid for the student. 2. We're almost done. This is nearing the end of the FAFSA. One of the last questions are you a preparer? This is very rare. Typically, a preparer is somebody that you have had hired and you are paying to complete the FAFSA for you. If you recall, I had mentioned that a parent can only create a FAFSA if they have a Social Security number. So at this point, if a parent does not have a Social Security number, they were not able to create an FSA ID, which means they cannot electronically sign the FAFSA. This is when you're going to go click on the other options to sign and submit on the bottom left-hand side of the screen. This will bring you to the paper form that the student will print out. The parent will sign it, and on this form there is an address where the student will send it to the Department of Education to have its signature on file. If you'd like some practice completing the FAFSA, you can go to the FAFSA demo website using the username at eddemo, and password is FAFSA test. The FAFSA forecaster is a simple 2-page website giving you example questions that you'll answer, which will then in turn give you a calculated estimated financial aid eligibility. Both of these can be accessed from the FSA toolkit at the https://financialaidtoolkit.ed.gov/learn/FAFSA. On behalf of McHenry County College, thank you for listening in on how to complete the FAFSA presentation. Please know that we are your community college and we want to help our McHenry County residents out, regardless of the college that your student or students are attending. Please utilize us as a resource. We would love to help you get your FAFSA done and answer any questions you might have.